that the most influential group of woke companies are banks. And they're the ones who are basically weaponizing their operations to promote these social and ideological views that are favored by the left.
I'm Stephanie Keith.
And I am Tara Manjekovic. And we are unapologetically outspoken. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Freedom Friday. So since this whole grand jury indictment of Trump seems to be going absolutely nowhere, which honestly I think is awesome because the MSM and the libs are having like a total fucking meltdown over it. But there's not really much to talk about except to speculate about the whole case being ridiculous and weak to begin with. So Stephanie and I have decided that we're going to talk about something totally different today. And for our regular listeners, you'll know a few weeks ago, we did an episode about Disney going woke and Target going woke and all these other companies that have been basically alienating their mainstream American audience and their more conservative customers with all of their leftist bullshit. And some of our listeners have asked us for a list of companies that they can support instead of these woke big businesses. So oddly enough, my mom sent me this really interesting article that was in the Republican Party news a couple weeks ago. And this article identified 51 woke businesses that are basically targeting non-woke customers. And the article alluded to different ways we can take action by being informed. So there's apparently a nonprofit organization called the 1792 Exchange. And they recently launched a project called Spotlight Report that has assessed over 1,000 companies to determine if their policies, practices, and other relevant criteria will cancel a contract or a client or deny services to a customer based on their political views or their beliefs. So of these 1,000 companies, there were 147 that were ranked as being high risk in their likelihood to engage in discriminating against not only customers, but also employees who don't share their woke views. So Fox News reporter Justin Haskins wrote a review of 51 of these 147 high-risk companies, and he reported, not surprisingly, because Stephanie and I have talked about this, that the most influential group of woke companies are banks. And they're the ones who are basically weaponizing their operations to promote these social and ideological views that are favored by the left. And he gave the example of Bank of America as being one of the biggest supporters of ESG and the credit score model that they want to use to transform the global economy. And again, this is all in line with the UN's left-wing sustainable development goals. So the other banks they identified included all the banks that we've talked about as being on the World Economic Forum website, like Citigroup, JP Morgan Chase, Morgan Stanley, and Wells Fargo.
I was just going to say, I bet that every single one of these companies are part of the World Economic Forum.
Yes,
and sure enough, they are.
Yeah. And we've talked about this before with the banking industry basically being one of the leaders in going woke. This should really concern everyone because obviously banking is how all of our money is controlled. And I've been a customer with Wells Fargo for over 30 years. I mean, it was literally the first bank account that I got when I was in college. And Stephanie, I don't know if they did this when you were in college, and I don't know if they do it anymore either, but they used to have these booths and they'd like target all the freshmen. So your very first credit card in college. Yeah. And I still have the initial account that I had with Wells Fargo that I got in college. So I've known that Wells Fargo is part of this ESG mob. But I also just learned last week that Wells Fargo made a corporate donation of something like $5.2 million to BLM. So I obviously need to get a new fucking bank.
Yep. I get ads for them all the time too, when I'm on social media, where they talk about providing solar energy to indigenous peoples. That's how they say it.
Fun. So aside from the banking industry, Haskins identified the next biggest problematic industry as transportation. And this one surprised me a little bit because he was specifically talking about the airline industry. And according to the 1792 Exchange, the 5 highest risk transportation companies are Alaska Airlines, America Airlines, Southwest Airlines, United Airlines, and XPO Logistics. And I think they're mostly like a shipping company. Um, but apparently, American Airlines publicly fought against Florida's Parental Rights and Education Act, which is otherwise known as the Don't Say Gay bill. And Southwest Airlines fought against state laws that were trying to enhance election integrity by limiting mail-in balloting. And of course, the most blatant and most obvious leftist companies are those in retail. So according to Haskins, the 1792 exchange labeled 15 large businesses in the retailing industry as being high risk. And a lot of these are places that I shop. They included Best Buy, Home Depot, Kohl's, Lululemon, Macy's, Target, Walmart, Amazon, Chewy, eBay, Etsy, and Shopify. And that these businesses all actively promote left-wing ideologies. Home Depot, for example, apparently advertised flyers to their employees about confronting their white privilege, their Christian privilege, their heterosexual privilege, and their able-bodied privilege.
What the hell is Christian privilege? Like, it's a religion. Anyone can join.
Right? Target has removed books from its stores at the request of liberal activists. They have fought against numerous legislative proposals that were backed by conservative lawmakers, and they have fully embraced DEI ideology. We talked about this in our Disney episode as well when I brought up that TikTok video of the woman that was shopping in Target for boys' clothes and everything was in pastel colors with like rainbows and kittens and hearts and flowers. And then, of course, the largest woke category of businesses is the food and beverage industry. So this report identified that the highest risk companies were Ben & Jerry's, not surprising, Coca-Cola, HelloFresh, Kellogg's, McDonald's, PepsiCo, Starbucks, and the J.M. Smucker Company, which that one surprised me. The jelly company.
I love Smuckers. What the hell?
I know. Well, historically, the most radical of these companies has always been Ben & Jerry's. And I've honestly refused to support them or buy their products for years because they've always been very outspoken again about being anti-law enforcement. They promoted their whole defund the police campaign. They want to dismantle the justice system. They've opposed legislation meant to limit election fraud. And their ice cream may be good, but fuck them. I refuse to buy Ben & Jerry's. And then, of course, you have the entertainment giants, some of the most powerful and influential corporations that are leading this woke revolution, like we've talked about Disney, Apple, and Google. So the question is, what do we do, right? And Stephanie, we've talked about this a couple times before. And I'm going to quote directly from this article because I thought it was spot on. And it said, quote, "The only course of action is to fight back and remember the dollar is still king. America is still a capitalist nation for now, and consumers have the power to vote every single time they spend their money. There are far more of us than there are of them, and it's time to get smart with how we spend our hard-earned dollars. We need to collectively stop handing them over to companies that hate us." And Haskins also suggested that if you can't find a business or a company that offers similar products and services that you need, start sending letters to all these woke companies and telling them why you don't want to shop with them anymore. And Stephanie, it's like what you brought up a couple weeks ago with Disney having to create basically an entire new position for someone to answer all of the complaint letters they've been receiving.
Yeah. Well, first of all, it pisses me off because most of the companies you listed, I like their products. And I'm like, just stop being woke. And what I don't get is they've done polls like multiple times showing that the majority of consumers want businesses to stay out of politics, yet they continue doing this. So it's driving me crazy. And I think in addition to sending letters, posting on their social media pages, writing reviews on Google or elsewhere, to let them know that this is ridiculous. But speaking of Disney, Business Insider reported budget cuts and layoffs are coming in April for the company. So on the February earnings call, the CEO, Bob Iger, would like 7,000 jobs cut in their effort to cut costs by $5.5 billion. So this is the biggest cost cut in the history of Disney. And then in Q4 of 2022, they lost $1.5 billion in their streaming service, and their stock price plummeted to $93.20 a share, which is down from a high of $196.16. So go woke, go broke, right? Like we are starting to see this. And I think that this is where I get hopeful, because it's like, okay, people do have the power. There's more of us than there are of these companies. And if it hurts their bottom line, maybe they'll change. So go woke, go broke. That's my new mantra. Say it with me. Now let's look at Victoria's Secret, where the CEO, Amy Hauk, I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, abruptly resigned after their woke pandering, where supposedly they hired transgender models. And then, of course, they canceled their famous Angels fashion shows. And the company faced a lot of pressure from activists wanting to see a wider variety of body types. And they changed everything from the mannequins to their styles being less sexy and more functional. So they basically changed like everything that they were known for because of left-wing activism. And now they're struggling to find their place in this new woke world, expecting to drop 7 points this year. And now we're seeing big companies having massive layoffs all across the board, particularly in the woke tech industry, due to the devastating economy. And no surprise that the first jobs that they're eliminating are the DEI. So once again, that stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion roles, proving that these jobs aren't important to the business and they're just simply a means of pandering to the extreme left. So the attrition rate of DEI jobs is 33% as compared to 22% among other roles. And according to Red Balloon, US companies spent $9 billion on DEI roles in 2022. I think that that is absurd. Like when you look at all of the problems that could be solved with $9 billion and they choose to spend it on this bullshit. So the total was actually supposed to increase to over 15 billion, according to Strategy, our consulting firm. Tara, like these are the woke companies that Biden just bailed out when Silicon Valley Bank went belly up. So get this, Silicon Valley Bank, the one that just went belly up, donated $73 million to left-wing groups like Black Lives Matter. $73 million. And now our taxes are bailing them out. Jarrett Stepman wrote a great article about this in the Daily Signal stating, quote, Silicon Valley Bank committed itself to various woke causes. In recent months, we've expanded our philanthropic giving through corporate donations and employee matching programs, CEO Greg Becker wrote in an introduction to the bank's 2020 report. These programs focus on pandemic response, social justice, sustainability, and supporting women, Black and Latinx emerging talent, and other underrepresented groups, end quote. So it seems like the California's bank commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion ended up being higher than its commitment to risk management, is what Jarrett Stepman wrote in this article. So I don't know. It appears that as long as you pander to the woke left, you can do whatever you want and you're going to face zero accountability, right? But just as I said earlier, there are over 7 billion people in the world. We can absolutely influence change and tell companies that we don't want this woke bullshit by choosing to not support them. And we saw this in effect a couple weeks ago when Hershey's went all woke with their transgender ad for International Women's Day that we had talked about. And they still haven't been able to contain the negative comments across all of their social media channels. And then, as I just said, Disney and Victoria's Secret are facing financial losses. And then we look at the other major woke area, which is Hollywood. And, you know, in 2017, when it was like the height of the anti-Trump, protests in Hollywood. Movie audiences were at an all-time low. And the North American box office earned $4.5 billion in 2021, which was up from the $2.27 billion earned in 2020, obviously because of COVID. No one's going to the movies, but down from the $11.4 billion earned in 2019. So they went from $11.4 billion to $4.5 billion. Now, obviously, like this could have been from the pandemic. Still, I guess maybe at this point, people are still worried about going to the theater. I know not here in Florida. It also can be like from streaming on Netflix and things like that. But I also think that people just don't want to see woke movies like Wakanda Forever.
And
Right?
maybe it also has to do with the fact that going to the movies is like what, $15 a ticket now?
Oh yeah, no, more. It's more than that. And then you add in popcorn and everything, you're spending $50 like easily to go see a stupid woke movie where they just go like overboard with it. Okay. But when you look at even TV, ratings are at an all-time low. So let's start with the wokest of the woke, CNN. An article by Jack Davis in the Western Journal titled CNN's free fall gets even worse as network hits ratings rock bottom not seen in decades. He writes that the overall picture was dark for CNN, with Fox News on the top with over 2 million primetime viewers. CNN trickled in at 21st with an average of 383,000 viewers. In the important 25 to 54 age range, it was ranked number 33 in basic cable networks. And then you look at the Grammys. They were down 53% from last year. The Golden Globes was down 60%. And then you have like late night, shows that used to be so popular. And you've got like super woke Jimmy Fallon. NBC paid him $80 million. And he only brings in 1.3 million viewers compared to Fox's Greg Gutfeld, who brings in like twice as much as Jimmy Fallon and Jimmy Kimmel combined. And they're on a free network too, where people can watch for free. Like people have to pay for Fox. You have to have cable to watch that. So it just blows my mind. And I think, looking at social media, there's so many social media influencers and podcasts that bring in 10 times that in viewership. So I just think that people are really over the woke nonsense and seeking alternative forms of entertainment and looking for different products to buy from companies that aren't this way. I know I am.
Yeah, I am too. But the one thing that sucks is, they kind of have us in a shit position between a rock and a hard place because we've become so dependent on these woke companies. Like, I can't lie. I love the convenience of shopping with Amazon and going to Target or Walmart. Like, I love my iPhone. I'm on Google. I love my Peloton bike and my Peloton tread, and that pains the shit out of me because Peloton is literally one of the most super fucking woke companies on the planet. And half the time, like, there's instructors I cannot take the class because it's all DEI woke bullshit. So basically, if I want to completely stand on my principles, I'd be giving up my phone, my computer. We wouldn't be doing this podcast because I'd have no equipment. So yeah, Apple, Google, they have me by the balls for sure. But I am trying to limit my Amazon and my Target and Walmart shopping. I make a point to support local. I make a point to support patriotic, freedom-loving businesses that are outspoken and standing up for America. And speaking of that, we have a great interview with an awesome, patriotic American entrepreneur that will be airing next week. So I'm excited about that. Okay, so we've talked about all of these woke companies that we don't want to support, but one of the things that people ask us is who can they support? So I want to mention a company that I can personally speak for because I love their product. And it's a company called Frontier Coffee Company. And they are based out of Tennessee. They're an awesome pro-America, pro-family, pro-freedom coffee company. And they have recently, I guess, come under attack from the woke mob who somehow like started threatening not only their business, but like the lives of the owners of the company wrote really nasty shit about them online. And I think that fucking sucks. They are an amazing company. They have incredible coffee. Um, I'm just going to read something from an email that they sent out to their customers. Was because they voiced their opinions, the woke mob has said things like the owner should have died in the war because he is a veteran. They commented that his 37-week pregnant wife, hoping that she would have a stillborn baby, they said that his their son should have been aborted. Just like really sick shit.
That's
And
horrible.
yeah, exactly. And that's just because this company speaks out about being pro-American. And what I love is like they're not backing down. Like at the end of the email, they basically said, "The fight is on, my friends, and we will not back down to the likes of this disgusting mob. So thank you for your support and for being part of our loyal family. Let's rebuild the American dream together." And again, I love this company. If you want to go support a pro-America, pro-freedom company, and you're a coffee drinker, go check out Frontier Coffee. You can also find them on Google under Smoky Mountain Coffee Company.
I think everyone needs to go on Google and write them a positive review and then follow them on social media, like show them support in any way you can. Obviously, buy the coffee because that's insane. That's so crazy that they take it to such extremes. It's not even attacking the brand, it's attacking them personally. And that's fucked up.
Yeah.
All
So,
right. Well, I know what I'm going to do now. I'm going to go write them a review.
yes. And then before we go, because we're going to wrap this up, but we just want to remind everybody that we will be starting the magic with our Patreon community on April 1st. And no, this is not an April Fool's joke. So if you haven't read The Magic by Rhonda Byrne, it's an incredible book. It's basically a 28-day journey, challenge, whatever you want to call it, where you commit to one short assignment every day. And it's all centered around the concept of gratitude, which in this woke, crazy world with all the shit going on, that's something that we can all try to focus on a little bit more. And Stephanie and I have both done this process with the magic several times. And I think I speak for both of us when I say that every single time we have experienced incredible life-changing shifts. It truly is like, quote, magical. So even if you don't believe in all the woo-woo shit, but you want to up-level your life, we are challenging you to go on this journey with us. And honestly, doing the magic for the first time a few years ago is what convinced me that the law of attraction was legitimate, and it completely altered my life. So for those of you who are interested, there's still time to join our Patreon community and go on this journey with us. And we promise it is not going to be anywhere near as time consuming or difficult as our 75 hard journey was. But if you do want to join us and do these relatively short assignments every day and you commit to embracing it, I swear it will absolutely change your life for the better. And again, if you don't want to purchase the book, Stephanie and I are going to post a summary synopsis of each chapter and the assignments so you can follow along with us. And we want you guys to also be active in posting your experiences on our Patreon during this journey. So head over to our Patreon community and like sign up for doing the magic with us because it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, it literally changed my life. Like after I went through the magic the very first time, everything changed. Like so many major shifts happened. So, I mean, it's fun and it's easy, but at the same time, it's so powerful and so transformative. So I highly recommend everyone do it. And like Tara said, we do it like every year now because it's great. So yeah, hop over to Patreon and we'll see you in there. And I just have one other like happy story that I wanted to end on because we always end Fridays on like a depressing note. And so I was so excited when I heard this. So Tara, remember when you were talking about like the Dutch farmers that their land was basically taken from them by the government, like all in the, name of climate change. So they all band together and they formed their own political party and they won. Like they won the majority of parliament. So now they can go into the government there and like make massive changes. So again, when we all team together, like things can change We just have to have like the will to do it. So I thought that was like such a good note to end on, especially talking about all these woke companies. Like we really can band together and influence change. So let's do it. let's stick to it. Okay. And maybe the magic will give us some of that extra, motivation.
Yes.
So thank you everyone for tuning in. I hope you have a great weekend, and we'll see you back for our Motivation Monday. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with a friend, and don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you get our latest episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And if you could, please rate and review the show. We are going to be reading every single review, and I would love it if you hopped over to Instagram at Unapologetically Outspoken and say hi. We want to see who's out there and start a conversation, plus get all of the topics that you want us to talk about next. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.